What's going on, my friend? Welcome to today's video. Today's episode number 19 of this how to modify your Xbox One and or PS4 Nitrado server. Today what we're going to be talking about in specific is going to be the percentages of the chances of getting vehicles to spawn with all their parts or getting weapons to spawn with, the attachments like the suppressor, the magazine, the sight, and all this stuff. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to give you guys a couple of examples. Another thing that I'm going to try to accomplish here is have my free codes channel on my Discord open, because I'm going to drop in here on this chat right here. Check out the link below in the description. Just a little template, so that way you guys kind of gauge a little bit of how this works. So the first thing that I'm going to do is hit Control F to open up my find tool, and I'm going to start with the vehicles. Okay. So just by typing VEHI, it takes you straight down here. Now, this is something that I have as a preset on mine. When I did my previous the guide that I did first for this right here, what I normally would have right here would be something like that. And at that time, my understanding and the general belief was that this right here, 1.00, meant 100%. And I noticed that a lot of people, including myself at that time, I was doing this. Going and giving it 0.90. That's 0.90%, not 90%. Okay? So, to fix this right here, what I did was that I started testing different things out, and I wrote down 100%, not 1,000, 100% on the actual attachment chance, right? And then what I did was that I did exactly the same thing. I took that 100 and I copy and pasted it on the vehicle, and now I have an attachment chance for the off-road hatchback, for the hatchback wheel for one of them to have 100% chance on it. And when I did this, it was amazing. It was great, but the main thing that happened was that the server started getting glitchy, laggy, and all these frame rate issues. So to fix this, this would be the best way to do it. Because remember, if you're adding 100% to everything, you're telling your server that all vehicles need to have that chance and there's no balance, right? So, and they also work collectively. So that means that you're adding a lot more than what you think by putting 100 on all of them. However, something that I did do that really, really works, notice that I have an 80 right there. This 80% chance, I only have it on this vehicle, but when I go down to my next vehicle, what I try to do is that since I used the template, I go back and edit this one and make it 25%. So that way, all the percentages on top, like for instance, when it comes to the wheels, all four of them, when it comes to the radiator, to the battery, and the spark plug that we have right here, they have a really high chance on the very first vehicle on top. Like I said, they work collectively. So that means that the next one, I don't necessarily have to put it at 80%, all of them. I can actually go as low as 10% or even 1% for that matter, because like I said, if you put everything at 1% and if the default value is like 0.0 something, and you put all your items at 1% chance, collectively they will push each other. It's not gonna have as that chance as often, but however, your first default vehicle on top, make sure that it has high chances, right? You can make it 100 for the wheel, and you can go from there. My personal choice is 50% on everything. It gives me a 50% chance of actually getting the loot to spawn with it. However, by doing this and adding this 50% to pretty much everything that I have right here, let me just change this right here, is going to kind of balance the equation out and not overload my server. So what we want to do, notice that one said 180. Those are the little mistakes that I'm leaving in here. Another mistake that I hope that you guys saw yet is that I put a V right here instead of an actual percentage. Those are the little mistakes that we leave behind when we do that copy paste with the Control V. Sometimes we don't realize that we're leaving bad errors in there, and we need to fix those, right? Alrighty, so like I said, you can bring them up to 100%, but just be mindful that the next set of items, try not to bring them too much higher, because otherwise you're going to overload your server. Notice that when it comes to the headlights and all these other little things like the doors and whatever, I leave at default, because by increasing these ones to a higher chance, there's also a higher chance that it'll come with, you know, all put together. Not 100%, but better chance, right? Alrighty, so I hope that that kind of clears up the buildings. I mean, not the building. Just did a guide on the buildings, but the vehicles. I really hope that it clears the vehicles. But like I said, don't use these really high values on everything, because you will overload it, and then you're going to be like, those values don't work. So my recommendation is, go when you start this at the very beginning, start with 25% on all of the categories for your first one, which is going to be your first vehicle. Lower that to 25 to everything, to the attachment chance and to the item itself, and make sure to test it out. Play for a day, play for 2 days, or something like that. So let's say that I have all these chances down to 25%. Let me make sure that I get all of them. I'm trying to give you guys the full example, so that way you get the benefit of it. Notice that I have them at 80. And the reason why I put them at 80, and most of them at 80, is because it's the worst example that I can give you guys, right? Because those numbers are going to make it that, you know, you're pretty much forcing your server to do something that it doesn't necessarily need to do. So for the first one, look at that. But when it comes to the spark plug and to the spark plug itself, that I do want to leave there at 80%. I'm going to leave that one alone. When I go to the next one down here, notice that all my chances are pretty low until the next vehicle, and then we start playing a little bit with this right here. And again, I put a lot of high values to show you guys that, you know, you can bring it back and balance it out. So I'm just going to leave it, because I'm not really going to save any of this stuff. It's actually, this is just the template that I created for this video. Now let's move on to the we just did the vehicles, but let's do the weapons. So same concept. You go right here to the find tool and you type weapons. Okay, computer, I get it. Okay, so here, notice that these ones I do have very high, and I have them high on purpose. These ones I do like to keep at 80%, because even though they piggyback off of each other, it kind of ensures that all the weapons are going to have mags at least. But look at how this works. The very first top attachment chance right here is separate from the actual item name. So basically, you're controlling this one right here, which, by the way, I recommend that you guys do more like 50% for these ones, because when I did at 80, the frame rate started getting a little bit messed up. So this is something that I meant to kind of fix a little bit. But even by bringing them to 50%, you're going to have a chance, attachment chance of the Makarov, for instance, right here, 50% chance, and it's going to be 50% chance added to the mag as well, right? But right here, like I said, you can make that 60 and 50. You can make that 100% and 50. You play with it, have fun, right? Like this part right here is not necessarily entirely clear to everybody, and I'm still experimenting with it, and a lot of times I find different things to play with it, right? So I'm going to keep these ones at 50%, and then as I go down, I'm going to leave all this stuff right here, because this one I am testing it for the weapons. With 50%, I found a lot more weapons with attachments, and a lot more of them, especially with the suppressors, which was actually pretty amazing. But notice that as I go down, I'm actually manipulating the attachment chance and the attachment item itself. So it's not just one or the other. You have to do both in order for them to take the full effect, right? Now, let me keep on going down right here, because I'm trying to find more of a weapon that you guys may be more interested in. Like for instance, right here, this is a good example. Notice that for this one right here, that it has a whole bunch of different attachments. These are the different attachment chances that they can have for those specific items, right? So for here, you have attachment chance, and it's talking about the UMP, and this is the mag. I want to make sure that I have a mag in there. However, when it comes to another attachment, I'm going to go, let's say 50% chance of getting a reflect optic. So here I'm going to put another 50% chance down here on this one, and what that's going to do is give me 80% chance of having a mag and 50% chance of getting a reflex optic, okay? So that doesn't mean that you're going to have 50% chance for all of them. You're going to have 50% chance that it's going to happen, that it's going to have an attachment, and it can be any of these items right here that could potentially, you know, get in there. but I like the reflex sight, so I want this one right here in specific to be higher than everything else. As you go down and you find different weapons like the VSS, you have the Winchester. Something that I wanted to add to this one is, the nomenclatures for the Winchester Black, the Winchester Green, the Mosin. Here, I'm going to show you guys how you would add another one in a second. But again, these values right here, please don't take them to heart. Start with lower, like 10%, 15, 20%, and then gauge what you need to, change little by little. But also keep in mind that when you save your changes, you need to give the Bohemia server about a day, I would say even for 48 hours, for all the changes not to implement, but to cycle through. Because sometimes you overload your server and you get paper. Pieces of paper everywhere, and it's annoying as hell. And that paper will stay there until it recycles and it goes through all the cycles of the default loot and everything else. So having said that, you need to make sure that you're not overloading the server, but at the same time adding those chances up so that way you get what you want. So like I said, start low. I'm going all the way up to testing out 80 just to see what happens. Okay, so the next one that I'm going to do is that I'm going to take this whole entire code right here, so that way you guys understand that this part right here, first of all, let me go to the Discord and put that code in there. Now make sure to check out the link in the description for the Discord so you guys can get the different codes for this. But what I'm going to do with this, because I haven't added it, is go to the Mosin, have all the same chances. Notice that I don't have a chance for the PU scope, because to be honest, I don't care too much about it to be there. I would like to find it in the game, but I do like to have the compensator by default. So that one is there. But what I'm going to do to this one is add camo to it. And that's pretty much it. That's going to add the chances of this weapon right here also spawning into my server. Alright, so I hope that clears up the vehicles, that clears up the weapons as well. But before we go, I really want to clarify something for you guys. It's something that is a main question in our Discord community. And it's a question that, that I've noticed in comments on YouTube, other videos, and all this stuff. So I just want to make something a little bit easier for you guys to kind of contemplate a little bit when it comes to adding nominals to your stuff. So this is completely off topic for this video, so if you only came here for the whole vehicles and attachments, then good riddance to you. No, I'm kidding, much love to you. But this part right here is just a simple bonus tip, so that way you guys start to balance your servers and understand why buildings are despawning, maybe, or why loot is not spawning, or instead of loot you're getting a whole bunch of paper all over the server. Okay, so what I'm going to do is that I'm going to go to the database file real quick, and we're going to treat this like a little bit of math, just so it makes sense to you guys. Okay, alrighty, so I'm going to open up the types.xml file, and I'm going to go over my item list. I'm going to show you guys how easy it is to overload a server. Okay, alrighty, so here, notice, let me see here. For the KA101, I have 25, which that's not necessarily a bad number. However, I've seen people do this. Okay, and then they do this. Really ridiculous lifetime. And then right here, go to the restock and put a 0 on it. Cool. Then they go down here and they say 99. Cool. They keep going down, and then here they take off this right here. And guess what you did? That's all it takes. Right there. That information is telling your server that it needs to spawn 100 AKs that can live for freaking ever as soon as they spawn, and as soon as one is picked up or it disappears, another one immediately has to replace it. Okay. And then on top of that, you only set military, which means that, military areas are going to be ridiculous, either with paper or with a lot of weapons or no loot. Now, take that same concept, and let's say that you did this little number right here, which I've seen in a lot of the servers that I've been modding, because some of the members that don't have access to the good devices, or they have to do it from their consoles, or they can't do the modding, they just hire my services, and I give them a very clean template. So, but something that I've been noticing in some of those servers is that you grab all this, and then you copy, and then you go down here, you remove all this stuff, and there we go. Now I'm telling my server that not only it has to do 100 over here, ridiculous lifetime and 0 restock, spawn like that please, please. Now you have 200 weapons. Okay, now we have 300 weapons, 400 weapons, 500 weapons. Guys, it adds up real quick, okay? So what I'm trying to say is keep your notice that my nominals are not above 20. Restock, it's even up to 1,000 for some of them. And notice that it's 1,000 for this one, but you go to my restock on the previous one and it's different. So basically I'm telling my server, hey, I do want more weapons, but I don't want them all at the same time. So that way you have time to process this stuff. So I really hope that this information is useful for you guys. This is actually one of my default templates that I use. I leave the restock at default most of the lifetime. I maybe some of them I edit, but I keep it at maybe 10 for the nominal, maybe 20 tops. And another thing that I like to do is also add tiers to it, so that way it kind of gets sprinkled all over the map. And notice that some of them not only have tiers, but they have multiple locations to distinguish them from the previous one. And notice that also this one is tier 2, tier 3, tier 4. This one is tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. So you gotta keep making balance and switching stuff around, so that way your server is not having to overload and put so much information down out of nowhere. Alrighty, you guys, I know that I went on a rant right there, and this is not my typical video, but I wanted to give you guys as much information as possible that is actually accurate, that has been working on my server and on the servers that I've been modding. If you have any questions at all, please make sure to send me a DM on my Discord. And I will also, of course, don't forget to subscribe, like this video, comment, and all these things, because to be honest, I just share the love with you guys. Share a little bit of love back. So, if you have any questions, catch me on the Discord. Stay sexy.